Okay, so today's lesson is just continuing substitution and elimination.
So the steps for substitution, as we said for the previous lesson, we have to solve for one equation. You can choose which one you want, and then for the other equation, we use it as a variable. You get to choose whichever you want again, and then plug it back into the equation. That's why it's called substituting. And you choose for the variable, and you solve for the other, and then back solve for the first variable. So you can like solve for y first, and then solve for x, or you can solve for x first, and then solve for y. Next. So this is a video. We're gonna try watching the video first to see if if you can understand better, if it works. I don't know if it works.
Hey guys, the aim of this video is to use the method of substitution to solve this pair of simultaneous equation. So our first step is to rearrange either equation 1 or 2 so that we can isolate the variable. In this example, I'll be using the equation 1 to isolate x. So if we isolate x, we have x equals 2. Subtract y from both sides, so we have 3 minus y. So this is equation 1. All we did is rearrange it. And what this allows us to do is that we can now see that there's an x that we can substitute into equation 2. So if we look at equation 2, we have 3y plus x equals to 5. But in this case, we know that x equals to 3 minus y from equation 1. So instead of writing x, we put 3 minus y. And this equals to 5. This is equation 2. And what we can do with equation 2 is now solve it for y. So we have 3y plus 3 minus y equals to 5. Grouping the like terms together, we have 3y minus y is 2y. And we have 5 minus 3 is 2. Therefore, our y equals to 1. So now that we have established one variable, we can actually use this y equals to 1 and substitute it into either equation 1 or 2 to find the value for x. Over here, we've already rearranged equation 1, so let's just use this. It's more simple. We have x equals to 3 minus y, and we just found y to be equal to 1. So we have x equals to 3 minus 1. Solving that, you get 2. So the answer to this problem is that x equals to 2 and y equals to 1. Quickly glancing at the equation, you can see that this is true. 2 plus 1 equals to 3. And 3 times 1 is 3 plus 2 equals to 5.
So I hope that helped a little bit. So now I'm going to solve one, and then I'm going to solve this one by myself. And then for the exact second example, I'm going to ask you for help. Sound good? Fantastic. So Ivy, if you could full screen. Thank you. So we're going to look at this example, this equation, and we're going to simplify it by having y equal to 19 plus 5x. We do that by transposing this negative 5x over to this side. So it can turn into a positive. That's a plus sign. And now y equals to 19 plus 5x. And we can plug this equation into the second equation to solve for a variable by plugging it into this y. Now what you would do first is get rid of the parentheses. So we have to do Pemdas. We do that by multiplying negative 8 to 19 and 5x. So we're gonna drop negative 3x, and then negative 8 times 19 will turn into negative 152. And negative 8 times 5 will turn into negative 40x, and then drop the 20 down as well. And now we have a simpler equation in which now we have to group our like terms. In this case, it is our negative 40x and our negative 3x. We combine it, and it will turn into a negative 43x, and we drop everything down as well. And now we would have to add 152 on both sides, and it will get rid of this 152 and drop negative 34x, and 152 plus 20 will equal to 172. And now we want to get x alone, so we would have to divide negative 4, 3. So we get x alone. Get x alone, and we also do that for the other side, and x would equal to negative 4. We have our x variable now. Now we have to get our y variable. Now because x equals to negative 4, we can take this, our equation that we made from transposing the negative 5x to the other side. So because y already equals to something, so it will just make it easier. So we will just plug in the negative 4 into this x. So 19 plus 5. Don't write x, we have to write negative 4. Because x, and then we'll basically multiply 5 and negative 4, which would equal to negative 20 plus 19 equals to negative 1, and that is our y value, and we have to put it in coordinate point form. So we write our x, and then we write our y. So this would be our final answer. Next. Ivy.
Yes.
Next equation. Okay, so now I'm going to ask you to help me. What do we do first? Hello? Did he leave?
Oh, are you still there? Caitlin needs your help on this question. You can also use the chat box if you can't use your mic at the moment.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes. So what's the first thing we do? I'm asking you. You're gonna help me with this example.
So we transport. Okay. So we do when we transport the y into 5, negative 5.
Sorry, what? So for this part, y already equals to something. So we don't have to transpose negative 5 anywhere. So where do we put this part? Where do we put this part of y equals to into this equation?
To the other.
Hello?
To the y.
Okay.
To the y.
Correct. Now what do we do? How do we get rid of the parentheses in this equation?
You distribute. You distribute.
What do we distribute?
You 4 times 2. 4. I mean negative 4 times 2 and by.
All right. Okay. Yeah. So this would equal to negative 8x plus 20. It's all right. You can just type in the chat. Now what do we do with this equation? What's the next step? What are the like terms? Yeah. So we combine negative 3x and negative 8x, and that will equal to 11x. And we bring everything else down. Now what do we do? Correct. We subtract 20 to get rid of this 20. Bring everything down. And this will now equal to negative 22. Now what's the next step? $11. Is it just 11? Remember, there's a sign. Okay, just divide a negative 11 on both sides, and x will equal to 2. Now, how do we get our y value? Where we plug our x value? Do we plug it for this one, or do you want to do this one? The first or second equation? So we want to do second. So y equals to 2 equal. Now what do we do? Now that we plugged in our x value into our second equation. Okay, we solve it normally, but what do we do first when we solve it? Okay, 2 times 2 equals to 4 minus 5. What's the last step? Yes, so negative 1 is our y value. And again, coordinate point form. So this would be our final answer. And now now try these three examples on your own. I mean equations. What do you mean parts with 3 and 4? Are you on the last equation, or are you still doing the first one or the middle one? transposing x to what? Specifically, which equation are you doing? We can do it together if you need. Third. Okay. So for this third one, you can choose which, if you want negative x to be equal to or y to equal to. So for this part, you can choose whichever, but I would transpose it as y equals to 3 plus x, because x has a negative sign in front of it, and it's just, and y is already a positive, so it would be simpler. So this would be put into this equation like this. You can solve for that if it makes it easier. It's just because that in front of this negative x, there's secretly a negative 1 in front of it. How did you put 4 to x? What do you mean by 4 to x? Oh, so 4 equals to 3, which is equal to no solution. It's supposed to be a trick question, so there isn't an x or a y. 4 equals to 3 just equals to no solution. You solved it correctly though for this third equation. But it's not. Well, this entire equation is supposed to be no solution, but it's not 4 equals to 9. I mean, it's supposed to be 4 equals to 9, not 4 equals to 3. Did you solve for the equation 1 and 2? Or are you still doing those two? Okay. Solve those two equations. And if you need help, I'm here. That's not correct. Y equals 2 is also not correct. You're very close. Here's a hint. You have the wrong sign. Yes, that's correct. Oops. Did you solve the second equation? Okay, do the second equation. X does not equal to 8. X does not equal to 8. Y does not equal to 3. Try again. Unless you want me to do it on the screen. All right. So, how do we? Now, what is the first step? How do we get y or x to equal to when it's for y? Oh my god. How do you get y or x to equal to it to something for one of these equations? And which equation do you want to do first? Okay. So what would y equal to now? What would 2x become? A positive or a negative? Yes. 2x. And now what do we do? How do we now what's the next step? Yes. We place this into the y value. Now in this new equation, what is our first step? What number do we distribute to get rid of the parentheses? Is the 5 a positive or a negative? Yes, so we distribute -5 into these two numbers in the parentheses, and you get negative 100 and a positive 10, because a negative times a negative is a positive, and you get 10x, and we bring everything else down. Now what is the next step? Yes, we combine the like terms. So 6x plus 10x would equal to 16x. And we bring everything else down. Now what is the next step? How do we get 16x alone on one side? Yes, we add 100 on both sides. Oops. And this will cancel out and we get 16x. And this would be, oops, 112. And now how do we get x alone? What's the last step to solving our x variable? What do we divide? and just the 16 of the x. So 16 will cancel out, and we get x will equal to 7. That is our x variable. And now how do we solve for our y variable? Which equation out of the 3 that we have? Which one do you want to do? The first, okay. So we will place our x value into this x. Now what do we do? How do we get rid of these parentheses? Yes, 2 times 7, that will equal to 14, plus y equals 20. Now what do we do? How do we get y alone? Yes, we subtract 14. Now 20 take away 14 will equal to 6. And again, put it in coordinate point form. And that is our answer. 7, 6. And now we can do elimination.
So just like the last class, you have to make sure that you have a same coefficient in front of the variable, and then you want to eliminate one of them. So you either eliminate the x or the y, and you'd be left over with the other variable, and you would just use substitution for the rest. Here's a video.
All right, so lastly, ladies and gentlemen, on this one is you guys can see that I do not have any variable that has a coefficient of 1, correct? Correct? None of them have a coefficient of 1. So substitution, you can still do substitution, but it wouldn't really be fun because then you'd have to solve for a y or an x. And if you guys kind of visually do that in your head, you guys just kind of, I'll go over this again with you. You guys kind of visually do that in your head, you can see you're going to have some fractions, and that's probably not going to be much fun to be working on. So the other method, which we call, is elimination. And using elimination, what we're going to do is add or subtract our equations to eliminate one of the variables. So if you look at this, if I add or subtract these equations, if I add these equations, when we say eliminate, we want to get 0 as a coefficient, right? So if I add these, do I get 0 as a coefficient? If I subtract these two equations, do I get 0 as a coefficient for any variable? No. Sometimes that's going to work, but in this case, that does not work. So therefore, I need to go to the next step, which is the hardest one. I need to find the common denominator, or I'm sorry, the common multiple of 3 and 2 or 4 and 3. Now it's a toss-up. Again, you can solve for x first or you can solve for y first. So, okay, what would you like to solve for, x or for y? All right, so to solve for y, we have 4 and 3. What is a common multiple of 4 and 3? What is the smallest number that they both divide into? 12. All right, would you like to add or would you like to subtract the equations? Okay, so there's different ways to do this. So he says to get these, they add 12. These both multiply or divide into 12, correct? So what I need to do is I need to multiply them both, so there'll be 12. So here I'd have to multiply that by 4. Here I'd have to multiply that by 3. Now, Kay did say he wanted to add, which I prefer adding. I don't like subtracting. Subtracting, I think, makes mistakes. So if I'm going to add them, if I have 12y plus 12y, that's going to give me 24y, right? So therefore, I need to make one of them negative. Don't matter which one. You just need to make, when you're adding, you got to make sure one's positive, one negative. All right, so now let's go and do the math. Remember, when you're multiplying, you got to multiply everything. So this is 9x plus 12y equals 30. This becomes negative 8x minus 12y, negative 28. Now, I add them. Right? And I can add them because you can see these are exactly the same. One's positive, one's negative. So therefore, 9 plus 8x is just going to be x. That goes to 0y, which is just 0, is equal to 2. So now I got my answer. Okay? Now we know what x is. Now we need to figure out what y is. But the problem, you remember in substitution how nice it was to have y solved, right? To plug the other one in. Here we don't have one solved, so we just have to pick an equation. So Jeremy, which equation? The top one or the bottom one? Top one. Doesn't matter. Pick whatever one. And you could use that one or you could use that one, but obviously these are smaller numbers. So I'm going to say 3x plus 4y equals 10. I know what x is. 3 times 2 plus 4y equals 10. 6 plus 4y equals 10. Subtract 6, 4y equals 4. Divide by 4, divide by 4. Y equals 1. So again, ladies and gentlemen, we have a coordinate point of 2, 1. Okay? Now, I'm going to give you guys an example of, you might say, well, all right, Ms. McLaughlin, that was all right.
Okay, so that was the video, and now I will demonstrate by doing this question. Okay, so we want to stack the equations so it's easier to see, and I can already see over here we can cancel out 4x. Let's just write it underneath so it's easier to look at the numbers. So positive 4x minus 4x gives you 0. 8y minus 2y gives you positive 6y. Negative 24 minus 12 is negative 36. And we want to get y by itself, so we divide 6 by both sides in order to get rid of the coefficient. So negative 36 divided by 6 gives you negative 6. So that's y. And we want to find out x as well, so we would just use either equation. I'm going to use the first one. So in order to find x, I'll put 4x minus 2y. But instead of y, we already figured out what y actually is, which is negative 6. So I'll fill that in here. And then we'll just solve it like normal. Negative 4x. Negative 2 times negative 6 gives you positive 12. Equals to negative 12. And you want to get negative 4x on one side, isolated. So you would subtract 12 on both sides. And that would give you negative 4x. And then negative 12 minus 12 will give you negative 24. And you want to get rid of the coefficient. So you would divide both sides by the coefficient, which is negative 4. So x would equal 6, positive 6. So your coordinates for this would be 6, comma, negative 6. Moving on, you can help me with this one. So what's my first step to do? What should I do for the first step of this?
I don't know how to say it, but so you basically place the first equation to the second equation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. What now?
So now it's just subtract.
So what would you get?
1x.
No. These are positive 2x, positive x.
Oh yeah, 3x.
Right?
0.
Right? Final one?
8.
Positive 19, positive 11.
8.
Positive 19, positive 11. So you would combine them. Positive plus a positive gives you So what's 19 plus 11? 30. Yeah, good. Okay. Then what's the next step?
You would divide
Divide by what?
both sides by 3.
And what do you get after that?
3, both sides.
So
10.
10. Okay, good. What do you want to do next?
Pick an equation and solve it. Place the 10.
Good. So which equations do you want to use? Either one works. It's just your preference. Second? Okay. So 2, and instead of x, we put in the 10. Like substitution. So what do you want to do here? Oh, what should be my next step? What should the equation look like after I simplify everything? 2 times 10, good. So it's 20 plus y equals positive 19. So what should be my next step? Minus 20 on both sides, good. So what's the final answer? Y equals final answer. -1, good. So we would get 10, comma, -1. This would be your final answer. Try these 3 equations by yourself, and you can call us if you need help. Yes, it is x equals 9. What is y? Y does not equal -1. Are you sure you plugged it in correctly? Just plug in x equals 9 into the second equation, since x doesn't have a coefficient. Well, 1 is the coefficient, so it's easier to look at. Okay. Yep, y equals positive 5. Try B or A, whichever order you want. Okay, we can do B together. So you could lead me through it. Do you know the first step into doing it? What should be my first step is what I'm asking. Right, so what you want to do is you can multiply it by a negative number in order to make one of them positive. So for this, what I would do is either multiply the top row or the second row by -1 to all of the numbers. So that means one of the 6x's would be positive 6x in order to cancel out the x's, and you'll be left off with y. So I'll show you how to do this one actually. So I will multiply this by -1. So I would get -6x plus 6y equals positive 6. And then -1 times -6x gives you can answer it in the chat or with the mic, whichever you prefer. So if I distribute a -1, what's my new second row? All you're doing is multiplying by -1, so the sign would change. So basically just give me it. No, just solve this part for me. Just -1, distribute it. Distribute the -1. So -1 times -6x gives you, all you have to do is change the sign. Yeah, positive 6x. How about -1 times positive 3y? -3, you're missing something. -1 times positive 3y, yep. And then finally, -12 times -1. So now what do? You have your two equations. We can solve them now, right? Because we have a -6x and a positive 6x, so it gives you 0, right? Subtract, right? So 0, I think you know how to do this already, right? 6y minus 3y. Great, subtract the other equation. Okay, so this is our new one. What do you do now in order to get y? Divide by what? Both sides by 3, yeah. So y gives you 6, right? So we want to find out x. So what would you do? How do you find out x? Same thing as the other question. How do you find out x? Plug. Which equation do you want to use?
Second.
Second? All right. So, okay, we keep -6x plus 3y, but we already found out the y, so we just plug in 6 and equals to -12. Okay, so what do we do now? Good. 3 times 6 gives you 18. Good. And then you just bring down the -12. So what do I do now? Minus 18 on both sides. Very good. So what would I get? What is this equal to? Is it positive 30 or negative 30? Negative 30. Good. So how do I get x? No. How do you get x? You have a negative 6x equals to negative 30. You want to isolate x, so you want to get rid of the coefficient, right? 5, because you would divide negative 6 on both sides in order to get rid of the coefficient. So it's positive 5. So your final answer would be it's okay. So your answer would be positive 5, comma 6. Try the number 1 by yourself, the first one. Here, I'll put A. Yes, x does equal to 6. Now I just need y. Yep, y equals negative 9. Good job. So that's all for today. So today, in summary, we did. Well, no, I just need it. Okay, so we went back and we were able to help you more with substitution and elimination, and you definitely improved with elimination. So substitution is basically, it's like this. It does, yeah. Elimination is basically just a more complex form of substitution, because in the end you still have to substitute to find out the missing variable x or y, but you got way better today, and that's good, very good. So yeah, that's all we have for today. Sorry, I just want to apologize for being like late because of the technical difficulties I had, but you did really good today. Kaylin, you good? You want to say anything?
What? No. Nothing. Hi. What? I was doing homework, sorry.
Oh, good. Okay. Yeah, but you definitely did better. So on Friday we have new stuff for you. So be looking forward to that. That's all we have for today.
Also, question, did the video help or no? I was trying something new. Was the video like a good idea? Yes? Okay, so I'll add videos for the next classes or so. Anyways, good
Yeah, you
feedback.
did good.
Yay.
Okay, that's it for today. So you can go now.
Bye then.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.